passionate to beat somebody. We're passionate to beat everybody.
My expectation is we go out and dominate and create a nightmare and make people never want to play you again.
If you are a fan of another team and your coach is not out there doing everything that Kirby Smart is doing right now, you are already losing. You feel however you want to feel about that.
Nowhere to run and nowhere to hide for 4 quarters. They got to see us in our house for 4 quarters. They got to look us in the eye for 4. This is about us and our family and our house. This is about us. This is our mentality. We ain't backing down. We ain't running. Set a tone, send a message. This is our house. Physical toughness wins in football now. And if you in this room, you got it. If you come in here, you better believe in it. Because this physical toughness, it's what makes the difference. Elite focus. That's all I'm doing to the guy across from me. I'm fixing to whip his ass. Not in my box, not today. It's about us. It's about our family. We attack. You take that helmet and you strike them. And you strike them and you strike them. That's how you get respect. Physically, I will break them.
Man, how y'all doing? It is Sunday evening and the dogs are riding high. Welcome in. We're going to talk about everything that happened this week in terms of Georgia football and a lot of other stuff. Tonight's show is chock full of different things to get into, but I hope that you checked in a little early. I hope that you heard that song off the top there. That was sent to me by a damn good dog out there. It goes by the name of Mike. I won't go any further than that at this point, but he said, use this music all you want to. I support the show. I support your work. And I said, I certainly will. So tip of the cap to Mr. Mike. I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me add that to the broadcast. I hope our dog fans out there enjoy it. Everybody who's in the chat, I see y'all are knocking it out already. Welcome in. Steele, Carol, Timothy's in here. Bruce is in here. Who else do we have? What is going on over here? We got Clint is in here with us already. Have I missed anybody? I don't think so. I think that's everybody. Y'all welcome in. Y'all know tonight's a little bit different. We'll talk about all I want to talk about. We'll talk about the stuff you want to talk about too. Don't forget to share the stream, like it, thumbs up, all that kind of good stuff. It helps us out. And if you're lurking and you haven't jumped in the chat yet, feel free to come on in, drop us a note, tell us where you're from, because we like to see who's in the room with us. So we're going to get into it. Let's go ahead and start this thing. I hope y'all are having a damn good dog week. I am. Squeezed in a little family time. That's why I was a few minutes late here. We were getting back from the swimming pool and having a good time. So I hope you guys are having a good Sunday also. So here we go. Let's jump into what this week looks like. And what was old is new again, if you know what I mean. The Dogs, our Diamond Dogs out in Omaha, took care of business last night with a 7-1 victory over the Texas Longhorns. Listen, I'll tell you what, they can say whatever they want. I'm pretty sure that Texas is about tired of the red and black. I think they're about tired of them dogs. That's what I think, because every time they show up, it's just, horns down again. That's all it is. That's all we know. I don't even think I can turn my hand the other way. I think it only works like this, if you know what I mean. So congrats to the Diamond Dogs. They went out there getting it done. There's a long way to go out there, but I'm sure that they're going to keep it going. And the good old Georgia Theater, man, you just leave that up there. Just have those letters ready so you can pop them up there every time that the Dogs tangle with the Longhorns. Because last night, we saw a performance from one Joey Volchko that in my 27 years of covering sports, I have seen some dominant performances. I saw Randy Johnson pitch a perfect game. I saw, way back when, I saw Wood strike out something like 19 for the Cubbies. Way back when, I've seen incredible individual performances. But given the stage and the season that this player had up to this point, what we saw Joey do last night for Georgia is as good as anything I can recall seeing. Because he's a guy that was like, if he puts it together, he could be dominant. And then on the brightest stage that his sport has to offer, he goes out, throws a complete game, finishes with 15 strikeouts, only allowed 1 run, gave up 4 hits, had 1 walk there at the end, just in control from start to finish. It's a school record for strikeouts in a College World Series game. I mean, the 3rd player in program history to throw an individual complete game in the College World Series. and the fourth solo College World Series complete game in program history. So Joey went out there, took care of business. The Dogs were locked in. And yes, Texas didn't help themselves early, but that's what the game is. You have to execute it. And the Dogs executed, and the Texas Longhorns didn't. So if you were watching the game out there last night, let me know what you thought about it. Jump in the chat here. Let us know what's going on, because that was just, I just enjoyed every bit of it. There are times, I talk about it a lot when I talk about working in sports, because for so many years, I didn't get to enjoy the games because you're working. And for the most part, it's been that way the duration of my career. But recently, I have had the opportunity to actually watch games for the enjoyment of it as a fan. And I don't watch all sports that way. I only choose to watch the things now that truly interest me. And so last night, when I got to sit down and watch Georgia play in the College World Series, like, that was really, really special to me. Like, it was something that I haven't gotten to do in forever, and just watch it as a fan, right? Snacks in hand, and just sit back and enjoy it. And then to see a performance like that from Joey Volchko, that was something special. And man, I was really pleased that I actually got to watch it, because it made me super happy to get to hang out there and just enjoy it, if you know what I mean. So that was pretty exciting. Let's see. What else we got? Yep, Bruce is talking about it. Joey V was on fire. Dogs look unbeatable. They have the hitters. I honestly thought Texas might be their biggest challenge, but we will see, because Oklahoma is hotter than a firecracker right now. And, you know, when you look at them over the course of the year, you would say, well, Georgia probably has the better team, but it all depends on how you show up and play that day. So we will see how that goes. But I thought going into it, Texas might be the toughest out for Georgia, and they were able to take out their top flight guy last night. So that was pretty good. And he was good. Once he got past that first inning and a half where he was a little shaky, he settled in, and he was everything that people said he was. But he was no match for Volchko. At least the batters were no match for what Joey had working last night. And those 15 Ks, I was sitting here, and again, you know, you watch sports long enough, you can call a strike before the umpire does, you know, and so I was sitting here shouting out, strike, all this stuff. And it was just a whole lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed it, man. That was a whole lot of fun. I appreciate Joey for everything he did. And these Diamond Dogs are just getting started out there, we hope. So we'll see where we go from there. Now, we talk about winners first here on this channel, but now we're going to dive into Georgia football. What's going on in Georgia football? Well, we talked about it last week, and it is recruiting season. So every weekend, including this one, is a big recruiting weekend. You've got a lot of top talent on campus for official visits. A couple of weeks ago, one of the best players in the state of Georgia was at the University of Florida, and he surprised everybody by pulling the trigger and committing to the Florida Gators, which seemed a little shady or sideways at the time, because the young man, everybody around him, they're Bulldogs, all of them. And you're like, this is an in-state kid. Georgia can use, all the levers here, right? So when he pulled the trigger for the Gators, we were like, that's wild. But then he comes on campus, and Florida didn't want him to come. He comes. Georgia puts the full court press on him and his family. They let him know what the future looks like in Athens. And he's like, yep, I'm a dog, just like that. Bye, Gators. And it's beautiful on so many levels, because I knew it looked a little sideways in the beginning. Could it be that maybe this young man was a Bulldog the whole time? He committed to Florida just to give him a little hope, knowing he was just going to gig him a little bit later. He's going to stick that knife in there and twist it just a little bit because he's been a Bulldog the whole time. If so, extra points for that young man. I'll give you that. But KENNEDEE Jackson is who we're talking about. The young man from Lithonia who was committed to the Florida Gators is now a Georgia Bulldog. That flip happened this week. He is a mountain of a man, as he fits the model that Georgia recruits at the position. 6'6", 300 pounds. But if you look at him, that is a svelte 300 pounds. Say what you want about star rankings and all these things. This is an elite blue chip offensive tackle. Trust me when I say that you just don't grow elite blue chip offensive tackles on trees. And if you have one in your state and you can keep him on your team, that is a good thing. And that is exactly what happened for Georgia this week. Kennedy Jackson is now a Bulldog. And like I said, there's been a lot of rumbling coming off of that official visit weekend last week for the Dogs that were in town. And there's a lot of smoke around what's happening in Athens this weekend for the official visits. This could be just the beginning for Georgia. It could be that we are about to see Georgia kind of kick it into another gear here with their recruiting. Because before we move on from Kennedy Jackson, I want to point out, by the way, this is the 8th player that has been committed to the University of Florida and then flipped his commitment to the University of Georgia in Kirby Smart's era at Georgia. So Kirby is just reminding John Summerall and the Florida Gators that the Dogs take what they want in terms of head-to-head recruiting battles with the Gators. There's no other way to put it. And this was just the first lesson for Coach Summerall and the Gators down there. I'm glad they got news that broke this week about how they've got some upgrades that are going to happen to their facility. Good. Let that be a salve to the back whipping you just got from Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs in this head-to-head recruitment. But as I was saying, this could be the beginning because there's a lot of things happening. This was a major flip. This is a This is a 4-star blue chip recruit that Georgia just flipped into this class. I don't think it's going to be the last one. There are a lot of rumblings out there that there's about to be another one. And even if that's not what happens, you've got just guys that haven't committed yet that are leaning towards pulling the trigger for the Dogs. So much so, there's so much talk about it that if you look around on the recruiting websites and stuff, you've got people like Steve Wiltfong who's out there saying Georgia's in a position to go on a little bit of a run here. Now, what does this mean? What it means is Georgia is targeting the players they want for their roster in positions they need, and these are blue chip players, which means 4 stars or above. Georgia has them in their sights. They're gaining momentum. They're swaying momentum. They are accelerating the pressure on these guys, and they are potentially about to make some moves here. So we'll see. As we all know, recruiting in today's age is just that, but it can go either way, and it doesn't matter until pen hits paper. But I will reiterate that if you do not get a young man to commit to your team originally, the odds of that player eventually signing with your school are extremely low. Whereas if you have a young man who chooses to commit, even if he decommits later in the process, your overall shot at getting that young man to sign with you on signing day is greatly increased. So commitments do matter because it talks about the mindset of these players and things like that. And thanks to our good friends over at UGA Sports for this graphic and putting it together and throwing it up there because, I mean, Steve Wiltfong is one of the best in the business, has been around forever. He, along with Chad Simmons over at On3, they've put in some new predictions for players that are headed in different places or giving updates daily. So if you're looking for that insider recruitment sort of information, make sure you're checking out UGAsports.com. They do it as good as anybody. They have the power behind them of the On3 Rivals Network, and they are going to keep you in the know. So Georgia seems to be positioned to get a lot of movement on the recruiting trail this week. And yes, the Diamond Dogs were playing last night, and Kirby Smart is a huge baseball fan, and he was out in Omaha. But the cameras caught Kirby doing this here, looking down at his phone, right? The man never quits. He's relentless. Yes, he hopped on a private jet after what I'm sure was a full day of recruiting with the official visitors, jumped on the private jet, shot out to Omaha, cheered on the Diamond Dogs, still CROOTIN, still working the phones. You're never unplugged from your phone. And then I'm sure he was back home last night after the game, back to being with those recruits on those official visits. and all that sort of stuff. So it never ends if you are the head coach at the University of Georgia. That is for sure. So Kirby not taking any time off. Yes, he's out there supporting the Diamond Dogs and Coach Wes Johnson, but he is not letting it slide. You know, he is not putting recruiting on the back burner even for 1 second. Good thing about those cell phones is they move all over the place, right? We can cover a lot of turf and still be doing what it is we need to be doing. And that is exactly what we do over at How About Them Dogs Plus. Do not hesitate. There's an opportunity to get 3 months of How About That Dogs Plus tier coverage over on the Patreon page for just $3. Never done this before. Not sure how much longer I'm going to leave this offer up. If you're thinking about it, go do it. You will not regret the move, because coming up on the other side of this month, we have things going on like jersey giveaways. I'm going to be giving away 2 signed Georgia jerseys this month. And if you are not a member over at Patreon, you cannot be entered in those giveaways. And in July, we have another huge giveaway coming. And we are just getting started. There's new stuff coming all the time. By the way, we have a private live stream that's coming up this month. And there will be another one in July and another one in August, because that's what we do for our supporters over there on Patreon. So if you have been thinking about it, now's the time. Jump on there, give it a shot. All right, so the other news that broke within the last week was that the College Football Playoff released their television schedule for how the games are going to be stacked up at the end of the year this year. Now, if you haven't seen it and you're watching here on YouTube, you can see these dates. But the first round of this thing doesn't start until December the 18th. Now, keep in mind that championship game Saturday is December the 5th. I know that for multiple reasons, not the least of which is that's my wedding anniversary by design. Alice and I, we love the game. We enjoy celebrating the whole weekend. It's a whole thing. But we're going to play the SEC championship game on the 5th, and then it's going to be 2 weeks before they tee it up for the first round of the playoffs. So on December 18th and 19th, you've got games, and that's going to wrap up the first round. Then we're going to take another 11 days off, almost 2 weeks again, and we're going to play the quarterfinals. So that's December 30th and January 1. Okay? So you've got 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks, before the thing starts after the end of the year. Then you take another almost 2 week break between rounds. And then you're going to take yet another 2 week break before we get to the semifinals, which are going to happen on January 14th and 15th. Man, by this point, we're well into the new year. It don't even really feel like football season anymore, if you know what I mean. And the national championship game is still weeks away. They're not even going to play that thing until January the 25th. So it's damn near February, and we're still playing the 2026 college football season. I don't know. When the coaches talk about how this schedule is lined up, how it's stacked, how they have to do things on the calendar to make it all work, you're trying to figure out this part of the puzzle, as well as NIL and transfer portal, which, by the way, the transfer portal opens up in January, right? So if the Dogs are still playing, they're going to find themselves right back in that boat where you have to get ready for this playoff game. And now I have to juggle the transfer portal again. And it's a problem they absolutely want to have, but it's still a problem, because wouldn't you rather just be focused on the game? The calendar for college football is ridiculously screwed up, and I don't know exactly how they're going to fix it, but I cannot see a reason to put such a long break in between these games. And again, last year we were talking about a first round bye, so Georgia wouldn't even have played in that first round. They didn't even play until essentially the new year, which is a month. And it's like Kirby pointed out, think of another sport where you are in it week after week after week for months And then all of a sudden you're just going to stop playing for an entire month and then go back out there and expect to be the same team that you were when you stopped playing. It's hard to fathom that that's a thing that's possible. In history, in this 12-team playoff kind of shows us that. The teams that have been playing in that first round have been able to keep more of a normal schedule, sort of keep on all cylinders, and then when they have an opportunity to play in that second round, they have performed really well. There has to be something to that. So there is a lot in the college football world that needs to be looked at and discussed, but this new schedule here is something that I know that the coaches hope gets reined in sooner rather than later. And as a fan, as much as I love the sport, it just feels weird playing college football to damn near February. I mean, that's just me. Maybe you have a different opinion on it, but that is absolutely something that that I think is wild. So let's jump back over here in the chat for just a minute before we move on to our next topic. And yeah, see, Bruce is talking about, he's taking a statement here on Kennedy Jackson saying, though, you know, he fits what the Dogs do perfectly. And that's the thing. He's talking about how he's built to advance and move to the next level. And, you know, I'm with you, Bruce. He's talking about how can humans be that big before they're 20 years old? I'm right there with you, man. I am right there with you. I agree 100%. It looks like you guys are not a big fan of the college football schedule either. I'm there with you, and it is a long season. And that's the thing, like, you can check out. If your team is not in the playoff, then you can check out at the first part of December. And then the only reason you're watching the games, essentially, if your team's out of it, with I'm sure there are exceptions, but you're probably just watching to hate watch. I hate Georgia, so I'm going to watch and root against them, right? I mean, because you're watching, and I guess that's all the bean counters are worried about, but it just feels weird to me, that it feels disjointed. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like it takes too long for all that stuff to happen. And yeah, and I'm here too. I'm with you, Clint. I hope it's a problem they have to worry about. I really do. Sedgwick, what's up? Welcome in. Good to see you. He's got us on the daily countdown there. I appreciate that. Good to see you in here. Good stuff, everybody. All right, so let's see. Any other questions? Did I miss anything? What's up, Brandon? I didn't see you jump in here. Welcome in, Brandon. Talking a little baseball. We took care of those Diamond Dogs off the top there. Oh, there you go. I took my son to a Making Bacon game last night. That's what I'm talking about. There you go, Clint. Good on you, man. That's a good time. Yeah, and I'm with you here too. You know, Bruce, I'm with you here that talking about the campus games and all that kind of stuff. I agree. The corporate neutral site thing is not something I enjoy, never have, and I'm with you. I'd love to see them move them back on campus as much as possible. Welcome in, Edward. Good to see you jump in. I appreciate you checking in with us. And this is where I want to remind you guys, if you're new to the channel, if you're just finding us, please give us a chance. Maybe hit the thumbs up and definitely subscribe, because we talk dogs and dogs football only here on the channel, unless it affects the dogs like the CFP, and then we'll mention that as well. But we focus on Georgia. And even having said that, this next thing that we're going to talk about is still going to be focused on Georgia. I'll show you why. I'm sure you heard the news about Brendan SORSBY, the transfer quarterback out at Texas Tech, who makes $5 million a year and had been told he was ineligible because he was gambling on the sport he was playing. And there's been a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of back and forth about, is this an illness? Is the young man sick? Does he need help, rehabilitation, whatever it is? There's so much discussion around this thing, but the bottom line is SORSBY, who had been ruled ineligible, was then ruled eligible inside of this last week to play for Texas Tech here in 2026. And that's when the hornet's nest got kicked and everybody wanted to talk about everything other than exactly what happened on the field. But here's the bottom line. Everything about this story and this is something that's not getting talked about enough, is illegal. He was gambling on games when he was underaged. He was gambling on the sport he was playing. He was utilizing other accounts to effectively make this happen. Everything about it is illegal. And yet, the wheels got greased. The system turned in his favor. And they got judges and people reviewing the cases that were lenient to Texas Tech. And now this young man is eligible to play. Of course, there's going to be statements and fallout, and everybody's got an opinion about it, including the NCAA, which, if you're not going to enforce, don't bet on the sport you play, what are we doing? What are we doing? Nothing has credibility at that point. None of it. The baseline for competition is at least a handshake agreement about the integrity of the sport that you're playing. And if you are not able to or will not enforce that, there's no point in playing. We should just turn the lights out and go home. Because this kind of thing is the sort of thing that erodes confidence in the process. So this season, when you're watching the games, people have been saying it already, but especially in light of this ruling, and I'm not even talking about Texas Tech games, you're watching college football. Things look a little funky. Blair, is he really hurt in the game? Man, it looked like he just kind of fumbled that ball. He wasn't even really hit. What's he doing? Man, did he miss that field goal on purpose? These things just creep their way into the conversation. If you're on social media and things like that, you're going to see it this fall. Because of rulings like this, we know that people are out here gambling on these games. SORSBY's just the one that got caught. And the thing that puzzles me is Texas Tech people can't even understand why everybody else is so upset about it. Nah, I don't get it. Are you kidding me? Like I said, if you can't have integrity in the game, at least a baseline understanding that we all agree that this thing can't happen, then why are we even playing the games? It doesn't make any sense at all. So the NCAA says we strongly agree or disagree with the court's ruling in SORSBY's case, and it is deeply concerned about the damaging and far-reaching and broadly destabilizing ramifications of this outcome, which undermines and corrupts the integrity of sports. The NCAA is committed to supporting student-athlete mental health, but must continue to aggressively defend against actions that defraud college athletics and threaten competitive integrity, such as betting on one's own sport. They didn't say anything's not true right there. I agree with everything they said. Problem is, they can't enforce it. They can't do anything. And it's flat out shit is what it is, because it's like, as a fan, what happens? There's a violation in recruiting. Who cares? I'm going to take you to court. Oh, I broke the law. I bet on my own games. I bet on the sport that I play. I can't play. I'm just going to go to court. Anybody else tired of that? I am. I'm tired of it. There should be a rule that is enforceable. And the NCAA can't do it. So how does this affect Georgia? Well, the Georgia upper brass, Josh Brooks, President Jerry Moorhead, they have been in the news a lot this spring, whether it was on conference realignment, whether it was on enforcing the NIL rules and the transfer portal and all these things, SEC separation, all of these things. They've had a lot to say. We've heard from them a lot. So, of course, when this news breaks, you have to think we're going to hear from them again, because there are no bigger brands in college football than Georgia right now. There are some that are as big, but if you're Georgia, then you have to take a stance here. You have to have a public statement out there, because this literally shoots a hole in the whole boat. Like the whole kit and caboodle gets wrecked if you can't trust college football to have the integrity that we all have agreed to for all these years. So anyway, Josh Brooks, what does he have to say about it? Well, the first thing he did is came right out there, issued a little memorandum inside the athletic department and said, hey, henceforth, we're not playing the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Now, just a little inside note, this kind of hit me personally, not in a bad way, but like the first game that I went to as a student at the University of Georgia was the Texas Tech Red Raiders game when they came to Athens. It was a great game. Hines Ward flipped into the end zone to win the thing at the end, rained the whole time. It was a heck of a game. We had a great time. It was a wonderful memory for me. And it was against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Jim Donnan, right? His first game as head coach. So there you go, Texas Tech. But now we're not playing them anymore. We're not playing them in football, at least until further notice. We're not playing them in football, baseball, basketball, gymnastics, badminton, equestrian, whatever it is. We're not doing it. He's like, we don't appreciate the way you treat this thing that we call college athletics. We think you went overboard here in greasing the system, turning the tables for your guy to have an unfair advantage, and we're not going to support that. Because again, Georgia's thinking about the bigger picture. They're thinking about the fact that, hey, Georgia football is a moneymaker for us. We need this thing to work. We can't have you out here ripping down the integrity of the sport, so we're not going to play with you. And there's been all kinds of talks inside the Big 12, about, hey, can we punish them? Are we not going to play them? Look, that's ridiculous. The Big 12 games, those teams in the Big 12 are going to play Texas Tech. There's too much money involved to not do it. They're not all going to forfeit those games. There are too many television contracts that are in line. They're going to play Texas Tech. So the question comes back to the player. Will Texas Tech have any kind of integrity at all and say, yeah, you can't play? They're like, oh, well, he didn't bet on games at Texas Tech. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You can't have this guy playing. But then you've got people out here running around going, I don't care if he has to sit a game or two or three or whatever it is. He's well worth it. That's $5 million well spent for a guy who has clearly and blatantly violated the cardinal sin, the cardinal rule in athletics, which is betting on the sport in which you are involved. So Josh Brooks and Georgia said, well, we're not going to be part of that. The Big 10, the Big 12, they can say whatever they want to say. But Josh Brooks and the SEC were like, we're not doing that. So that is the overall perspective. That was the first thing he did. The next thing he did was come out and issue his own statement. Thanks again to our friends over at UGAsports.com for creating these graphics here, which allow me to share it with you so easily. If you can read it on YouTube, if you're not listening, or if you're listening and not seeing it on YouTube, it says true integrity means holding your program accountable when things go wrong, not buying custom legislation or running to a local courtroom to bypass the rules. So Josh just plainly said it. Look, Texas Tech, he got busted. You had a choice of how to handle it. We think you made a bad choice here. It's not what we agree with. And the official position of the University of Georgia is this ain't cool, y'all. and that's how he left it. So in terms of, I don't know about protecting Georgia or the integrity of college football, but in terms of where they stand, Josh Brooks and therefore the University of Georgia are very, very clear on what they think about SORSBY being ruled eligible, whether or not he is, or whether or not Texas Tech should do more, to handle his situation, and whether or not they are going to participate in collegiate athletics against Texas Tech for the foreseeable future. They've clearly delineated where they are, and I think that's good for Josh to do. I think it's fair for him to take that stand. And for anybody who wants to come out and say, what is this about integrity and accountability? You're the University of Georgia, who has had a lot of issues in recent years in terms of off the field problems. Very true. But guess what? Every one of those instances has been dealt with accordingly. Players kicked off the team. Players missing extended portions of the season. Players if they had to, serving time in jail for whatever it was. They dealt with it. They were accountable. They were, again, separated from the privilege of representing the University of Georgia in instances where that was warranted. Georgia did not go running to the local ACC courthouse and say, hey, he's a Bulldog player, let him slide. They didn't do that. Georgia did not run to the state legislature here in Georgia and say, oh, well, look, we're going to change these rules. I need to, lobby you to get you to write this bill in so that if this happens in the future, we're going to get the advantage here. That's what Georgia didn't do. Texas Tech did that. These two things are not the same. So nobody out there should be trying to draw any kind of tie or bind here between the two. They're not the same. So good on Josh for getting out there and making a statement the way he did. I appreciate that. Now, before we move on to the next thing, who's jumped in the chat over here? And let me know, by the way, in the comments, what do you think about SORSBY? Should he be eligible to play? Should he be kicked out of the sport? What about what Josh Brooks did? Should Georgia be allowed to play Texas Tech, or do we want no part of them? Let me know. I want to know what you think, because these things are moving so rapidly, and too often I find myself feeling disappointed in the outcomes because the systems don't seem equitable, and I just would love to know what you think about it. So drop it in the comments below. Let me know. So who's jumped in the chat over here? I think I mentioned Edward before. Welcomed him in. Welcome you. I'll do it right now in case I didn't, Edward. Thanks for showing up and hanging out with us. El Capitan is in here with us. Welcome in, Fred. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Shammy's in here. What's up, Shammy Waller? Good to see you back in here. And all, of course, the usual suspects still chatting it up over here. Clint getting it in. Everybody up. There's Rolling Loud. What's up, friend? Good to see you somewhere other than the comment section. I appreciate you jumping in here on a Sunday evening with us. Josh, what's up? Says I'm locked in. Welcome, buddy. Good to see you in here with us again this week. This is awesome. It's awesome. I love it when you guys are hanging in here. 15 thumbs up, more than almost 60 watching. Man, I got to do a better job. Get this thumbs up number a little higher. Share the stream if you will. Let the people know we're out here doing what we do. All right. I got some weather, so if I get knocked off the air, y'all, bam, that was lightning. We'll see. If I get knocked off the air, that's what happened. But we're going to be here with you till that happens. Okay, so what is next? One more thing that I really wanted to talk about here before we just throw the doors open to whatever y'all are doing. In case you missed it, and this is just one of many, but this week, On3 put out their SEC football power rankings, not national, just inside the conference. And the reason I wanted to take time to mention it tonight is because my guy Chris Lowe is the one who put his name on it, right? So when it comes to what he's doing, how he writes, and how he goes about his work, Chris is about as good as it gets. Whenever he puts something out there, I want to stop and pay attention to it. And I thought we'd walk through it here together tonight. So on his power rankings, as we sit here in June, he has the Texas Longhorns at number 1. Now, I saw a lot of funny stuff about this in recent days. Everybody went running immediately to the comment section saying something, some form of Texas are the offseason champs again, as they are every year. And it is quite funny because it's true, But I'm not going to be dismissive like that. I think Texas probably has the best, and you can interchange that word with most talented roster in the country this year, which is why I think that if the Texas Longhorns do not go win at least the SEC championship and very well the national championship, this season is an absolute bust, and Steve Sarkisian is not going to be as comfortable as maybe he would like to be over there on the 40 acres. Now, that's just my perspective from the outside looking in at Texas, but look, we can do the math. People who care to can track it down, whatever they're spending for this roster. And I'm just saying, it's you go 9-3, you go 10-2, and you don't get in, something like that, then you don't win another conference title. Heaven forbid you lose to the University of Georgia again. I got to think those Texas people are going to be quite upset. I know that they are already, because I've seen them. They've put their face out here on the interwebs for everybody to see, saying, we don't want no part of Georgia right now. We don't want nothing to do with Georgia. Well, Georgia's not changing. So the question is Texas changing? We'll find out soon enough. Now, I just think there's a lot of heat on old Steve Sarkisian out there. That's a different question than saying who's on the hot seat and something like that. I'm just saying that there's going to be some people, turning some thumb screws if they don't start doing some things in a big way out there. So anyway, Chris Lowe has the Texas Longhorns checked in at number 1 in his power rankings, and the Dogs are right there. Now, I'm not going to argue a whole lot with either one of these first two. I'm pretty good with it, honestly. I mean, you could argue that Georgia could be number 1, but again, I'm going with the roster argument here, which is kind of how Chris did it, and I don't argue with what he said. So, Texas power ranked number 1. Now, I don't know his exact formula, but like I said, I'm not arguing with it. Georgia's in at 2. They have Ole Miss checking in at 3. Now, you got to say why. Well, they're bringing back a lot from that defense. You still got Chambliss. You still got Lacey. They're going to find somebody to throw the football to. Ole Miss has a really good football team. They're going to be a tough out this year for everybody, and I really don't have a problem with them at 3. Oklahoma is sitting there at 4 for Chris Lowe. Now, I don't know how much I'm preening here, but I'm really happy that he has Oklahoma so high, because I think Oklahoma is going to be a heck of a football team. I think that is a dangerous early game for Georgia, even though it's at home. And I think that when you look across the roster, they have less questions than the next 2 teams, which is Texas A&M and LSU. So having Oklahoma at 4, I don't really have a problem with. If you look down at 7, that's where we see Alabama. And this one's odd because Alabama has a very talented roster. But that's not the entire equation. I understand that's what I said that's what gives Texas the edge. I didn't say that was the only factor for them being power rated where they are. So Alabama has real questions in my mind along the line of scrimmage, specifically offensive line of scrimmage. And then shaking hands with that question is they have to show me that they can run the football. And I'm not sure they can until they show me. I think that's completely fair. And oh, by the way, first-year starting quarterback, right? So I think they have real questions, but I do know that they're talented. And when you start to look at what's left in the SEC, I don't have a problem with Alabama sitting there at 7. Now, if you really want to split hairs and get with a more fine-tooth comb than I can give you, based on me being a Georgia person and talking about another school, you might be able to make an argument that they should be at 6 and LSU should be at 7, or 5 and 6 and 7 should flip-flop somehow. Whatever. I mean, at this point, we're all going off best of knowledge, and none of us know what we don't know. So there you go. Now, Tennessee is there at 8, and I think that's probably fair. I expect Tennessee to sort of slide back a little bit this year. We will see what Heupel can do with them, but I just expect that to be, I sort of see them in the middle of the pack this year. So putting them at 8 makes perfect sense. Right there, 50-50, right smack dab in the middle. The Gators have a new coach. They're talented, but of course you're putting in a new system. You're breaking everything in new. That just says a lot, I think, about the talent that they have on the team, as well as maybe the credit that Chris is giving John Summerall for what's happening at Florida so far, and the hires that they've made down there, which have been solid. So Florida at 9, given the talent they have on the roster, I think is also fair. Now here you get into a shuffle of teams that you're like, all right, the biggest 1 or 2 here that are going to get your attention is this out of this next 3. And that would be South Carolina and Vanderbilt, with Missouri jammed in the middle at 11. South Carolina can be improved, and they're always dangerous because they've got players at key positions that can impact the game directly. Missouri is having to break in another quarterback. They're going to lean on the running game, but is that defense going to be anywhere near as good as it was last year? And then, according to Chris, Vanderbilt is going to take a big step back from where they were last year, a 10-win team that some people argued should have been in the college football playoff. So he sees Vanderbilt sliding the most, with South Carolina and Missouri just sliding in right above them. I think that is probably correct, giving South Carolina the benefit of the doubt here for those stars that they have on that roster. I'm okay with that order, 10 through 12. But then when you get to the next tier, these are teams that are in clear rebuilding mode. Auburn, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Arkansas. Clearly, they have Arkansas at the bottom of the list there, given the recruiting challenges out there. A new head coach at Kentucky is going to make things interesting offensively. It's a Kentucky guy. He wants to be there. They are showing up in more and more recruiting battles here this cycle. So Kentucky is moving in the right direction, but right now there's a lot of questions. Jeff Lebby is in year 3, I think it is, at Mississippi State. He has had to overhaul that program. I think Jeff Lebby is a good coach. I think he needs to be given a little bit of time and leeway here, but that still doesn't mean that you're going to be ready to compete. And Auburn, given where they were, who they brought in, both through their coaches' hires as well as through the transfer portal for players, they lost some talent, but they also brought in guys that can do some work for them. All things considered, I think that I don't have a whole lot of bones to pick with Chris Lowe's assessment here for this SEC Power Rankings. Now, again, this is one of those things where I want you to tell me what you think. Where did Chris get it right or wrong? Who's way out of slot here, and where would you put them? So feel free to drop that in the comments, because I would love to see that, just to get a feel for how everybody's thinking about it. All right, let's jump back over here for a second real quick and see what's happening in the chat, because I don't want to miss anything. If you guys got some stuff going on, I want to make sure that we are getting on it. Roland's talking about Gunnar Stockton. He says he is that guy. Man, you're not wrong. I think Gunnar's going to have a great second year as the starting quarterback at the University of Georgia. And you've watched enough of this stuff on this channel. I think you know that. So I think you know how I feel. What is up, Kimberly? What is going on? Glad you made it in here. Sundays are fun days because we hang out and say hello to everybody who drops in. It's good to see you, Kim. Kim, I've been thinking about you for a minute. And I was telling the girls just the other day, I was like, I thought about Kim, the other day. So that's another story. Hit me up in the DMs if you really want to know the story. But just trust me, it's all good. It's nothing bad. Henry, what's up? Welcome in. It's good to see you here. Hanging out with us for a little while. There's Timothy welcoming everybody in. I appreciate it. Oh, Bonaire, Georgia. Oh, man, I tell you what, Clint, we just had a gully washer roll through here. Lightning, thunder, clouds got real dark, but it looks like we stayed on the air, so that's a good thing. Let's see. Yeah, see, and Bruce, here's the thing. This is where you get into that question. How is Texas above Georgia? Because power rankings are weird. They're different. It's not what you have done. It's all based on potential, right? It's all based on what we all do all off season. When you look at these teams, you're like, well, this is here and that's there, and they're moving pieces, and here's how I think it's going to go. That's all power rankings are. And again, I don't know Chris's, by the letter. I don't know his formula for how he figures it, but there's always some wiggle room in there. And that's why they're interesting to talk about, because nobody's are ever going to be exactly the same. Like I said, I don't really have an issue with Chris's ordering there, but yet we still managed to have a few things to discuss as we went through the list, right? So you could jostle those things around a little bit if you wanted to. No harm done. It's just, that's why I say drop it in the chat and let me know, because I know we all have opinions on it, and that's a cool thing. And yeah, Texas and Georgia, that is a good rivalry right now. But again, the Texas fans don't want no part of Georgia right now. And I'm not saying that as a Georgia fan. I'm saying that as a purveyor of content in the college football realm. And I have seen other people who choose to put their face on the interwebs and say things out loud so other people can hear it, say, I'm happy we don't play Georgia right now. So there you go. They said it. I didn't. A1 Sauce, I'm with you still. I am with you. Let's see. Rolling loud. Before Texas came to the SEC, they were never even talked about. Now they're in the SEC. Now they're the best team in the SEC every year. I'm with you, man. It's just the brand. That's all. Just the brand. Results matter. I'm with you. Sorry about that, y'all. Hey, what's up, Michael? I'm glad you could make it in. See, we throw you up on the screen. Says, I've been waiting to catch the show live. Mike from Columbus. Welcome in, Mike from Columbus. Hope y'all staying safe down there, not getting blown away. Glad to have you here with us in the chat. And Clint is calling his shot, telling us to look out for those Gators. I look out for the Gators every year because, again, I'm a Spurrier guy. Like, I was in school when he was there. Ugh, brutal. I will always think that Florida can beat Georgia most every year just because that's the way it goes. What's up, puppy? Sorry, the puppy dog came in here to say hello. The Gators are going to be dangerous. They're definitely talented. With that new coach, if he can get them playing right, they're going to beat somebody they shouldn't beat. I feel confident about that. Don't be too pushy. Don't be too pushy. Sorry, y'all. Puppy dog, come and say hello. Scott Anderson says I'd put Georgia in one spot in the power rankings. Fair enough. I mean, there you go. There you go. I will, Kim. I absolutely will. When the discussion came up and we were talking about it, I was like, do y'all remember Kim? I was talking to the girls, and I got one yes and I got one I'm not sure. I'll let you guess which one said I'm not sure. But yeah, we absolutely, it took a second, but I reminded them what's going on. I reminded them. Yes, Alice, autocorrect, gotcha. I know what you mean. Oh, let's see. Georgia getting ranked last ain't good for Arkansas. No, I tell you what, they are going to show up and play hard. I don't doubt that. And I like Arkansas. I always have. But right now, there are some structural things that are a problem for Arkansas, and they got to get that straightened out before they can get back in the conversation. Pardon me, for being competitive, year in and year out there. Maybe this new head coach can do it. Young guy with a lot of juice. Maybe he can make it happen. Of course, the first thing he's got to deal with is the fact that he had a whole lot to say about Kirby Smart and the University of Georgia football program when he was at Memphis last summer. I don't think that he's going to be out there talking like that now that he's inside the conference and having to stare across the table at Kirby Smart at the SEC coaches meetings. Just saying. So we'll see, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's going to be out there and come in the hot guns a-blazing. So we'll see. Shane, welcome in. Good to see you make it in here, friend. Good to see you. Am I caught up? I think I might be caught up. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. She just left the room, Kim. I just saw your mention here. If she comes back, I don't know. She's tall, but she's not that tall, if you know what I mean. She's a retriever lab mix is probably the best way to say it. She's a cutie. She's a little over 3 years old, and she's a love bug. But she is still plenty puppy at 3. Not quite outgrown it all yet. Yeah. So there you go, Clint. You got Georgia at 2 right behind Texas. Like I said, that's fine. I think that makes perfect sense. Then you could there's a couple of different ways you could argue it, And Scott, I see this down here. How about Georgia Tech, Brent Key offering Kirby's son, Andrew? That was pretty cool that I saw that happen this week. And, I mean, all's fair, man. Make the offer. Who knows if I don't know. I don't know. But I know that when Drew Bobo was offered, at first people were like, well, that's because he's a coach's son. And then everybody was like, no, he's a good player. He's a good player and he can play at the University of Georgia. And that's why he got offered. And the same thing last year with AJ London. I guess is the way you say it, a legacy at the University of Georgia, played at Clark Central. And people are like, why are you offering that kid just because he's a legacy? And they're like, no, we like him. There's a reason. So if we get to that point, then if Andrew Smart gets an offer from the University of Georgia, it's going to be because they feel like he has earned the right. Or maybe Andrew just wants to be a Bulldog, right? And it don't matter. So he could walk on or anything else. But the bottom line is, if you're another school and you like a player, the last name can't matter. You have to go make your offer and recruit that player. But it is wild to see it. You know what I mean? And think about the fact that I actually should have done a slide for this, but all those years where we see Andrew with the whiteboard at the Georgia Tech game, we run this state, year after year after year, on the shoulders of some player for that year, holding up the whiteboard. It makes this offer just a little bit funnier, if you know what I mean. So, but everybody has to make their own choices. That's for sure. And yes, Carol, I'd love to see those interactions myself, right? Between Kirby and the new Arkansas head coach. Absolutely. And yeah, Bruce, absolutely. Drew absolutely carries his weight for Georgia. There's no doubt about that. None at all. And so that's why I don't, again, people who know the program, people who understand how we do things around here, they get the fact that you don't just get to come to Georgia and just play, right? You don't just get an offer from Georgia just because of your last name or however it goes. We know that if you get an offer from Georgia, it's because you earned it or you are deserving. And of course, other schools want to throw rocks occasionally on, about stuff like that, but we know what's up. We absolutely know what's up. So, man, we are already past an hour. I told you we had a lot of stuff going on tonight. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about what? The Diamond Dogs taking down Texas again. Well, Georgia beats Texas again. The Diamond Dogs beat the Texas Longhorns for the first time, but either way you spin it, it's horns down again. And so Joey Volchko and his performance last night, one for the ages, one for the record books. Absolutely. I personally loved watching it. I can tell by reading your comments in the chat here that you guys enjoyed it. So that's good stuff. And then we got into everything that was happening with recruiting and the huge flip. Kennedy Jackson is now a Bulldog, right? He was a Florida Gator. I would love to believe that he was just kind of twisting the knife on the Gators a little bit there to make it extra sweet. So Kennedy Jackson is now a Georgia Bulldog, top 100 player in the state of Georgia, prototypical offensive tackle, going to be a great player for the Dogs. Love to see that. And there's a lot of stuff happening in terms of recruiting right now at Georgia. So you've got the pros coming out saying Georgia could be about to sort of shift gears here in terms of this recruiting cycle for the Dogs. So that's going to be cool, watching that over the next week or two to see how it shakes out. And that, it doesn't mean Georgia's going to get everybody, but again, they're going after the ones that they think they need and fit their system, and they seem to be making headway. So that's really good. And then we got into the discussions about, the CFP, what that looks like this year, how crazy that is, that the season's going to go so long. We talked about Brendan SORSBY and what's going on with Texas Tech and what that means for college football. I told you, man, a lot of stuff. And then we finished up with the power rankings there here inside the conference. So if you ask me, that's a pretty well-rounded show. We got through a lot of stuff, and I appreciate you guys hanging out here with me again. And I want to remind you one more time, let's see, because this is the kind of thing that people, I feel like I don't do a good enough job of saying this and so that people understand it. So I want to throw it on the screen again. The offer right now for the Patreon page over at How About Them Dogs Plus is $3 for 3 months, $1 a month for the rest of the summer until the season begins. You can get access to everything we do, all of the private stuff, all of the exclusive stuff, all of the premium giveaway offers, You cannot be eligible for those unless you are a member of the Patreon page. This is the opportunity to get in there. And when you're done in 3 months, if you feel it was not worth it, then that's okay. But I promise you, I don't think you're going to feel that way. I hope you guys will jump on over there and give it a shot, because we have a good time over there. And like I said, there are exclusive live streams that are going to be coming up here in the next week or so over there on the Patreon page. We've got exclusive giveaways that are going to be happening this month, at the end of this month, for not one, but 2 signed University of Georgia football jerseys. And then for July, around SEC Media Days, we already have a giveaway booked with our good friends over at Peach Jack Apparel. If you don't know them, go check them out. They've got all kinds of really cool stuff, local business here in the state of Georgia. They make awesome hats, polos, lightweight hoodies, all that kind of stuff. Got a cool giveaway lined up with them for the middle of July. So I'll tell you what, we're just doing all we can to give you guys all the good stuff over there, because that is where it's at. All right, let's see. I know I'm behind in the chat now. I know I'm Winston. What's up, Winston? Welcome in. It's good to see you. I like it when we get to this point because everybody's back in here. We get used to seeing people jump in the chat, and we're like, oh yeah, my friend showed up. That's cool. On vacation down in Destin. Nice. Nice. Beach time is always good time. That's fact. Clint's wanting some skins in that Vanderbilt game. You weren't the only one, Clint. There are a lot of people who want to see what we can do to the old Commodores, especially since they're holding a grudge on the 2020 season where they didn't come to Athens and play that game. People are still in their feels about that one a little bit. So there you go. Let's see what else we got going on. Nice. I'm glad, Clint. I'm glad you had a good time hanging in here with us. That's awesome. That's awesome. Sedgwick says, I think UGA will be fine with recruiting. We still have a lot of young guys getting developed. I really think Kirby has the best approach. I agree with you, Sedgwick. And here's the thing. None of us know exactly how this is going to go, but if I were a betting man, I would keep this in mind. In his time at the University of Georgia, Kirby Smart has only failed to have a top 10 recruiting class one time. And that was in his first year, right after he took over the job in December. That subsequent recruiting class finished outside the top 10. Every year since then is proof of concept. Kirby gets his guys. So it is June, and people are all up in their feels about this. If I were a betting man, I would have a little faith in the fact that Kirby knows what he's doing. And at the end of the day, the Dogs are going to be just fine. And more often than not, they're going to get the dudes that they want. And just because a public commitment occurs and Georgia's name was tied to that commitment or that recruitment in one way or another, doesn't always mean that Georgia was actually involved in that recruitment. So, and I'm not talking about the top flight guys. I'm just saying there are a lot of dudes who put Georgia on the list. And who's to know if they ever actually had a committable offer from the University of Georgia. So just saying, I think it'd be safe to just let Kirby do what he does and see where we end up when pen meets paper. Because more often than not, Kirby's going to get the dudes that he needs. So, and it's people just forget the fact that already in this class, the number one running back is in the boat. Number one running back in the country in the boat. Number one tight end in the country in the boat. I mean, you've got offensive linemen like Kennedy Jackson in the boat. You know, you got Joaquin Gouda in the boat. Blue chippers. So, you know, it's not like the sky is falling, people. Let this thing play out. We'll see where we end up. Cannot shake that little cough. All right, so let's see, back in the chat. What are we doing? What are we doing? Okay, cool. I see what's shaking over here. Well, guys, like I said, we've been here over an hour. Nice long stream tonight. I appreciate y'all hanging in here with us. I got to do better. So many people in here, about half that many thumbs up. But rest assured, I'll show up again and keep giving it a good swing, and hopefully this thing will go well. Clint is telling us right here at the end, he's predicting an 11-1 record. And I hate saying this, but I can't get over the Alabama loss. So you think Alabama's going to be the one to get them? All right, we will see. I have yet to do any predictions for this season, and this is proving more difficult than I had originally thought. I'm really, really enticed to believe that Georgia's good enough to go undefeated this year. But at the same time, I know that this is the 9-game SEC schedule. I know how difficult that is to navigate. And it's almost like it's hard to imagine that you're going to get through that and not trip up somewhere. The question is where? And then you might just get beat because the other team might just be better that day. You know, so the potential for 1 or 2 losses absolutely on the table, potentially 3. So it's interesting. But I'll get out my predictions a little bit later. What I have done though is do my position grades. I've done that the last couple of weeks. So if you haven't seen those, watch those videos, check them out. Talk to me in the comments. Let me know what you think. And if you jump into the 2026 Georgia football playlist, you can hear everything that I've said starting in January up to this point, piecing together this big old puzzle that is Georgia football as we head into the summer here and we start to hit that glide path before takeoff. If you want to get into it really, really good and really know this team front to back, go jump in that playlist, start at the beginning, and just watch it straight through. That's how you'll know exactly what I'm saying is going on in this channel. So I would invite you to come do that. Absolutely, Scott. Injuries always matter. Never fails. Never fails. Okay, everybody. Thanks again for hanging in here with us. Keep your eyes on the YouTubes. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. Come on over to Patreon. Check it out. I promise it'll be worth it. And if you're already over on Patreon, there'll be some updates coming, some notes coming about these live streams I've been talking about to give you some info on when those are going to happen here in the next few days. So you guys take care of yourselves. You may see me before then, but if you don't, you will see me on Wednesday night, barring, the creek rising and all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back here for the next edition of the How About That DAWGSCAST right here on Wednesday night for the live stream. So you guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, go Dogs!